My name is Gregg Hill. I've been writing for almost 40 years. I've written 4 books of compositions, and this is Technocats is my 11th album. And I'm thrilled to have these guys on the album because I have a model I'm working with, which is the San Francisco Jazz Collective. And they have rotating members, and sure enough, we got this group together and recorded, and everybody left town, basically.
So, they gave us the travel bug, that's what it is.
So, I'd like to keep these guys as a core and, for future projects. You guys really communicate on the bandstand, like you're totally tuned into each other. So there's so much counterpoint and back and forth and harmony, and you guys even think twice about it. Like having listened to the album, there's 20 examples where you guys are really operating on telepathy almost. You're telegraphing your next move by the notes you're playing, or just is it familiarity? What is it exactly?
We both have a lot of the same, mentors and influences, and I think that helps. There's all types of accents for jazz, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it helps that we both speak the same accent.
Tell me more about this accent. I'm not familiar with I know what accents are, but I'm not familiar with the language of accents.
Well, actually, because when I came here and studied with Randy, he kind of built me up from nothing. And so the first accent that I learned in jazz was like the Michigan accent, right? Or the Detroit accent, okay, right? Nice. Yeah, and then going to Colorado, it was kind of like a shell shock for me because I'm like, no one plays like they do here. And that's not necessarily good or bad, it's just different. So that's something I learned going away. The places that we musically grew up in, those are the places that define who we are. So we'll always have this connection, the Detroit connection, right? Yeah. The feeling of the blues. And so that's something special.
Absolutely.
Is there a rumor of some CDs?
I've heard that there's some CDs in the building. Well, we heard you have some CDs here.
I'm ready to see them.
All right, here.
Oh, this is like Christmas.
All right.
All right, let's see them.
You know how it is when you make a record and you don't get to see anything with it until it's done, poof, it's real. And here it is. Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Wow.
That's so killing.
How'd y'all make this thing?
I love the little sketches too. Those are nice.
Yes, yeah. And you got the valve. You got a valve on the trombone. Wow, that's it. That's all I could have asked for.
That's so far out, it's cool.
Yeah. I love X's picture. He's beaming. He's beaming in it. It's so amazing.
Well, he's beaming through this whole record.
He really is. Yeah, he's like the glue for this record. We're a bunch of young cats coming in and playing it. And we're like, can we get Xavier Davis? And he comes in and it's just like, oh yeah. And he's so easygoing, but he just glues it all together, like everything. And I remember you were like, hey, can you take a piano solo on this just to start it off? And it was just like, it was like, it was just like mind-blowing in the studio. And he's just, sure, it's just sitting in there whirring all the time. He's got ideas, he's got intros and everything always going. So that was one of my favorite parts of the session.
How did Javier come into the group?
Javier?
Yeah, he was living with you all, right? He was in the house.
Yeah.
I mean, Javier is our guy though. He's been my regular bass player. I love Javier specifically because he is an absolutely brilliant musical mind. He's always thinking about music. He always has a new recording he's checking out. He's always talking about a new tune he wants to play. And his knowledge of repertoire is pretty unmatched. You can kind of call any tune on him. And the other thing too is that because he's also from Miami, he's very versatile. He can kind of play any kind of music you want to put in front of him, which I think translated well to the record too. Because I think the record has a smattering of some different styles, especially Inside Straight. It's more of a rhythmic ostinato. It's a repeated rhythmic pattern. And Javier is able to play off all these things while also being able to dig in the Detroit way and really swing.
Yeah, he's a good soloist too.
And he's a great soloist, very musical and melodic. That's a big thing.
That's the key to my whole thing is melody.
Yeah.
You want to move the melody and it has to tell a story or paint a picture, or it has to leave you with a feeling. It has to accomplish something emotionally or with your senses. I love if you can get a visual image. That's the jackpot for me. If you can actually get people to see the melody taking you someplace and giving you an environment, surroundings, and the storyline is sort of moving along. So. Yeah. And it makes you part of it draws you into the music. takes people someplace. You know? So.
I think so, and I think each one of these tunes has its own melodic identity. You know, it's really. And what was great about that too is that you let us, you know, each have our own voices on like your music as well too. So like this is all very Gregg Hill music, and it all has very good melodies, and it's very singable, and it feels good, you know, when you play it. But then what was nice about you letting us do this project is that you gave us almost complete freedom to do what we wanted with that, and I think that that's something that's really special, and it comes out on each one of these tunes. And that's special.
That's sort of my formula with all the albums. I'm sort of a talent scout too, so I scouted you
definitely.
So I scouted you. All right, so I trust these guys, and I'll turn them loose, and that's sort of what happened really. Free reign is the word. As long as you keep the theme intact, basically.
Yeah.
How about Michael Reed? He's a standout player, and he's the first call guy as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, man. Playing with Mike is great because he is a musical telepath. He really is, especially a rhythmic telepath. You can play any rhythmic idea for him. It doesn't matter how convoluted the polyrhythm is or how interesting the hemiol is, and he's right there with you. His ears are so open all the time, and his time is so clear and steady that sometimes when you play with a drummer, they can take a drum solo, and you're just sitting there like, okay, this is an indeterminate amount of time drum solo. But with Mike, you always know where you're at in the form. It's always very melodic. You always know exactly when you need to come in. That's what I mean by musical telepathy. He can play and hear what you're going to do, but he can also play in a very readable way. His ears are so open and clear that not only can you play stuff for him and he'll be telepathic and know exactly what you're playing and how to react to it, but also he plays like a great lead trumpet player in a big band that's so clear that you can read his mind. You can read his mind about what's coming up.
What drew him into the group, outside of the fact that I mentioned he's first call, but outside of being first call?
He's another one of our close friends. Actually, at the time we were assembling the group, him and Javier were living together too. You know, Mike has always been the first call guy, and I was hoping also when we started doing the group that we could get someone else that could write arrangements.
Just kind of echoing what you said, when I play with him, you know, I could play anything in like the jazz rhythm language, and he'll just know it. And then also like vice versa. And you know, going away from Michigan and not playing with Mike a little bit, there's kind of some mourning to that. Yeah. No one plays like Mike does.
Same thing with Javier.
Yeah, it's this group, you know, it spoiled me a lot. But I'm so happy that it's here and I can listen to this stuff again and you know, play with these cats again. Mike's one of the best. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
And we talked a little bit about Xavier, and he was on the Rodney album, Outrospection, and like you guys are saying, you can play anything and he knows exactly what to play. Yes. And he plays it great, and it's imagination, and it's stuff you haven't heard before even. I don't know where he has a very deep well there of ideas, and it doesn't matter what situation you throw him into, he nails it basically, and creates an experience out of it. So.
Yeah, he's.
I like putting him on the spot in the studio. Okay, here you go. Okay, here you go.
And it's one of the, you know, it's.
I think that's one of the best moments of the whole record.
And he stepped right up and like, okay, I can do this. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember too, it's cool to see like a master like that work. Like he sat down. I remember you're like, I want a piano intro. And you know, we didn't plan that out, right? No. And so you're just like, it needs this, and you know, you're like, can you do this? And he gets over there and he sits on the piano, and then I remember he starts playing a little bit, and then that kind of stops, and then he's like, no, it needs to be like this. And then he played the intro on the piano, and it's almost like, what is going on in his brain? But you're sitting there, and I'm just sitting there in the booth, and I'm like, oh, that was killing. I don't know. I just remember that was one of the great moments of the record. He's always there, and he's always supporting, and I think that's something that we should all strive to do.
That's an important point. There's a noticeable difference there between the guitar player that's really listening and supporting what's going on and somebody that's off in their own world a little bit. You're not that guy. You're the guy that's in there really listening hard and putting some tasty little background there and doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And to both Xavier and Nathan's credit, like, it's kind of a dangerous proposition doing a record that has both guitar and piano, because a lot of times you can get into trouble with comping. They can walk all over each other or step on each other's toes and the registers, but They both play, and they have such a good sonic palette for comping with register and frequency and texture and timbre that they can both comp at the same time, and it'll be in different ways that accentuate each other's comping really effectively, and the soloist at the same time. It's like kind of 3 different things happening at the same time.
Thanks.
That's very, very sophisticated stuff there, to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you can kind of hear the one, like piggybacking off that on Sunny Days, the intro, where it's just me and X. That was, I really enjoyed doing that. I remember that was scary because it just was like, just play and then like feel it with each other, and that's one of the hardest things to do, especially, you know, you study when you're like a student and you're like studying like, I got to make all the chord changes and do all this stuff, and then all of a sudden someone's like, just play a melody and, you know, make it work, and there's no time, you know, and then it's like, and that was a good like trusting moment. We both trusted each other, and I think it came across well. So.
What's the best tune on that album? And I can't name that best tune because each one has its own personality.
Right. I was thinking about that too.
And they're all standouts. That's a contradiction, I realize, but it's true. I mean,
yeah. Our album Technocats is available from Cold Plunge Records and is available on GreggHillJazz.com. So check it out.